1/4 ln 3 times 12. How do I solve for A?
Divide by B.
Divide by E to the
Exactly. This whole thing right here is just a constant, right? So all you have to do is divide by that. So A is 10 over e to the 1/4 ln 3 times 12, which I just put 3 ln 3. So somebody tell me what our A value is. I'm sorry? Well, this is the final answer because it said how many are present initially and A is your initial amount.
10 over 27 or 0.370.
What is it?
0.370.
0.370 million. Now, the problem with this is I don't know if they would take that. Because if we were to write it out for sure, tell me what it would, like the whole, read me the whole number if we were to write it as an actual number without the word million after it.
370. It's just 370,000.
So that's how many actual bacteria there are initially. So I don't know if they would take that or not. Maybe they'd have to specify.
half credit.
That's where I'd be nervous about writing a 10 instead of the whole 10 million. So you have to think about it.
Would you still want to include the same number of digits if you just write out 0.371 million? Because like if you need to include 3 decimal places.
I know, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But anyway. Okay, so there we go. That's the third one. One more last thing, and then we're done.
Wait, but we don't have another example.
No, no more examples.
Dun dun.
Guys,
Yes.
in problems that aren't word problems, how do you know whether to keep the absolute value or not?
You always put an absolute value unless you know that the thing is positive. If you don't know it's positive, you have to put the
And
absolute.
then you look at the point to see if it's positive or negative.
You can't because that point's just one point on a graph. How do you know there aren't negative points?
So what do you do with that?
You always put the absolute. Remember if we drop
so you
when
can
we
put
drop it, you put the plus or minus? We did that yesterday?
Yeah.
If I had, say I had ln p, and say I have an absolute value, right? So ln p equals kt plus c. So we have absolute p equals e kt plus c, which equals a e to the kt, right? When I drop the absolute value, that's the same as putting a plus or minus on the other side. And I talked about how it can only be one constant here, it can't be two. So then we just replaced it with a new letter.
Okay.
You end up with the same thing either way. But they can write problems that aren't logarithmic where you don't end up with the same thing. So you got to be careful. Always put the absolute value, unless you know it's positive. Okay, last thing we need to talk about is Newton's law of cooling.
That's so weird. That's the second novel, right?
All right, in your book, I'm going to show you something that you might not even be aware of. Are you ready for a tiny bit of sarcasm?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So this is your textbook. This is tonight's homework assignment. Everyone see it? It's
Wait,
hard
is
to
the
see.
camera still recording?
Okay, can you turn the lights on, please? Yeah, it's still recording. Okay, everyone see the homework assignment? Okay, this is tonight's homework. Do you know that in between homework assignments, there's stuff in your book called text?
It's right by the bin.
Right? Right? Do you guys see that? So like, you have homework assignments, but in between those homework pages, there's actual like writing in your book. Right? Yeah. So anyway, the page before your homework tonight is where they talk about Newton's law of cooling. Newton's law of cooling says this. It says the rate of change in the temperature of an object is proportional to the difference between the object's temperature and the temperature of the surrounding medium. So, rate of change in the temperature of an object, so you might want to write this in notes somewhere, Newton's law of cooling. I'm going to write that as dt dt. I'm going to use a big T for temp and a little t for time.
Yeah, that's gonna be
How do I write is proportional to? Equals K times. The difference between, whoa, I'm going to have to subtract
Y minus T.
the object's temperature,
TO.
big T, and the temperature of the surrounding medium, which I'm going to call M. Now the temperature of the surrounding medium, that's like your air temperature of the room or outside or wherever you are, that's a constant. This is a constant, right? So if the room's air temperature is 70, you can go ahead and just put a 70 in there, right? When you divide, you're going to have to divide by this quantity, T minus whatever it is, let's say 70. When I take the antiderivative, I do not have to do a u sub because it's still variable plus number, right? So it's just natural log T minus 70. However, do I know that T minus 70 is always positive? Not necessarily. Got to put an absolute value. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Good, good, good. And that's it for that.